Hello again, AI learners. This is Mike Hayes with Mike's AI 2-minute notes. I don't think I'm much different from a sportscaster or a movie reviewer. I'm here to explain things quickly to help you decide, is it reasonable to spend your time, attention, or $10 on this movie, this event, or this AI? Through AI podcast listening to storytelling explainers, my AI co-hosts bring their voices of reason, offering calm in today's chaos, to help us all navigate the rising tide of the waves of AI. So, in the next 2 minutes, they'll explain today's topic. Then you decide, is it reasonable for you to stay tuned for more AI podcast listening for learners? Let's listen.
Let's talk about finding a signal in all the AI noise through the eyes of one journalist.
I mean, it feels like it's all just hype and emotion, right? It's pretty hard to keep up. But a new approach is trying to cut right through all that chaos. And that's where the storyteller and journalist Mike Hayes comes in.
He's taking his classic reporting skills and aiming them at the age of AI. But here's the thing, he's not a tech guy or an AI evangelist, he's an observer. Instead, he's bringing that journalistic discipline to this totally new frontier. His whole approach really comes down to 3 key ideas.
It's all about being a voice of reason, turning that chaos into a clear story.
And his mission isn't even about the tech itself. It's about the human side of things.
He's asking how this stuff changes how we think, how we connect, pretty much everything. And to explore all this, he uses a pretty unique method.
Get this, he uses AI companions he calls voices of reason to help guide the conversation.
So the idea is to just have a calm dialogue, step back, and really observe what's going on.
And all this is to help us make sense of this new world we're all walking into.
So if you're curious, you can find his work on any of these platforms.
It's all about finding that clear, reasoned narrative inside all the noise.
So in this age of AI, who are you going to trust to tell the story?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You've brought us a stack of sources today, detailing one of the really important new voices covering the artificial intelligence revolution. And honestly, we're thrilled to dig in. Because for most people, right, trying to navigate the rise of AI, it feels like we're just drinking from a fire hose. So much hype, fear, conflicting info.
Oh, absolutely. The signal-to-noise ratio in AI coverage is just brutal, isn't it?
It really is. Every single day, it feels like there's some new breakthrough or, another existential warning or some VC promising the world's going to change by Tuesday.
Exactly. Promises and panic side by side.
So if you, the listener, are looking for a perspective that's, grounded, reliable, where do you actually turn?
That's the core question.
And that's exactly why we're zooming in today. We're looking at the methodology of Mike Hayes. He's a veteran journalist, a documentarian, and he's made this conscious choice to pivot his really rigorous focus onto this incredibly dynamic landscape.
A landscape that's changing almost hour by hour sometimes.
Right. So we have sources detailing his core approach, his sort of unique stance in this whole ecosystem, and maybe the most surprising part, the nature of his actual co-hosts.
Yeah, that part definitely raises eyebrows initially.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission really is to dissect how Hayes is applying what our sources call time-tested journalistic discipline, applying that to a field that's just defined by its, total lack of verifiable stability right now.
Constant flux.
So what can his structured, evidence-based method teach you about how to observe, how to process these massive transformations AI is forcing on us, on society?
That's exactly the critical component we need to extract today. We're distilling how Hayes applies this journalistic discipline to a subject, AI, that's basically running on pure adrenaline and speculation.
Yeah.
So for you, the listener, this deep dive, it's kind of a shortcut to understanding the mindset you need. That filtering mechanism required for observing and, frankly, successfully living through this AI transformation.
A filtering mechanism. I like that.
And the key discovery right out of the gate is that Hayes has very carefully avoided the 2 extremes, the ones that dominate almost all AI discourse.
Which are going?
Well, he's not a breathless evangelist, promising some immediate digital utopia next week.
Okay, not the hype merchant.
Exactly. But he's also not a reflexive doom and gloomer, not focused solely on, the Skynet scenario, the existential risk.
Right. Avoids both poles.
He positions himself very deliberately as a grounded, experienced reporter. And his focus, it's fundamentally on the human element.
Okay.
Not the silicon structure itself, not just the code. He's documenting what the technology does to us, to our lives, to our culture, rather than just endlessly describing what the technology is on a purely technical level, which, let's face it, can get overwhelming fast.
Absolutely. It becomes abstract. He's focused on the impact.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with that fundamental premise. The one that honestly initially strikes me as almost contradictory. Applying time-tested journalistic discipline to AI. I mean, like I said, traditional journalism relies on multi-source verification, right? Slow, careful evidence gathering.
Takes time.
But AI development, it moves in weeks, sometimes days, not years. So can you truly apply that rigorous, maybe slower discipline to a world moving at, well, hyperspeed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you map that old-school rigor onto this?
Our sources, though, they leave no ambiguity about Hayes' explicit core mission. His objective seems twofold. First, documenting the transformation of society as it unfolds, like real-time anthropology almost.
Yeah, capturing it live.
And second, providing a critical service.
Yeah.
Helping audiences make grounded, reasoned sense of this new AI-driven world.
Making sense of it all.
So
Yeah.
it's less about just reporting a press release from some tech company and more about providing, I don't know, a crucial map and compass for people.
A map and compass. That's a great way to put it. And to understand the weight he places on discipline, we absolutely have to look at his background, his professional history. Hayes is bridging his legacy, right? His experience in high-stakes, accurate media reporting.
Okay.
And the sources specifically cite his work with NBC Sports, major global events, and he's connecting that to this new sprawling mission, this deep dive into our technological future.
NBC Sports, major events. So think Olympics, World Cups, that kind of scale.
Exactly. Think about the operational requirements for covering something like the Olympic Games for a huge network like NBC.
Immense pressure.
Real-time data delivery. You have to coordinate just massive amounts of simultaneous information.
Scores, personal stories, weather, politics, everything at once.
All of it. And distill that into a coherent, verifiable, and accurate narrative for millions of viewers, all while operating under intense immediate pressure.
So the question then becomes, why is that specific intense background necessary for covering AI specifically? I mean, the tech itself isn't a televised sporting event.
No, but the consequences are arguably even higher stakes for society, right?
Wow. Okay, so the stakes aren't just viewership, they're societal shifts.
Exactly. The stakes in AI reporting aren't just visibility or his own reputation. It's the accuracy of the entire public narrative about this transformative force.
Right.
The AI landscape right now, as you know, is just littered with half-truth, competing narratives usually from Silicon Valley pushing accelerationism.
Right, the hype cycles.
Then you have conflicting scientific papers, vested interests constantly trying to spin the story, either towards massive investment or, towards maximum fear to encourage regulation.
To the battlefield of narratives.
It really is. And Hayes' history suggests he's trained to cut through that noise. He's transferring that specific methodology, that demand for structured preparation.
So he treats the claims of the AI builders, the science behind the algorithms. He treats them with the same skepticism and requirement for evidence he'd apply to any major news story, like a political claim or a corporate report.
That's the approach described to an industry that often, celebrates the move fast and break things ethos.
Which in itself, applying that framework, that's a massive stabilizing force in the coverage landscape, potentially.
Potentially, yes. A counterweight to the chaos.
His new mission is explicitly about educating, illuminating, guiding the public, helping us understand these waves of change shaping the 21st century, specifically through the lens of AI.
He's taking the precision required for that live network-level accuracy and applying it to the future, which is inherently messy, uncertain, and hard to verify.
That's the challenge right there.
And this dedication to the method, it directly dictates his key attribute. This is perhaps the most important element for you, the listener, the learner, to really internalize about his approach. His primary stance is that of the observer from the outside looking in.
Okay, the observer. That distance. That feels like a critical differentiator in this space, doesn't it?
It really is.
He approaches AI not as a technologist,
Yeah.
Deeply invested in the code's efficacy.
Or someone building the models themselves.
Right. Nor as an evangelist selling us the inevitable future he's already bought into, but specifically as a disciplined journalist maintaining that necessary objective distance.
Maintaining distance.
But hang on. Doesn't maintaining that distance mean you might miss some of the nuance, the internal language, maybe the technical difficulties that only a builder, someone deep inside, can truly appreciate? Is there a risk of being too far removed?
That's a really crucial question. And it speaks to, I think, the fundamental trade-off of journalistic integrity in any specialized field. If a reporter is too close to the source, if they are a builder or an investor or someone whose livelihood literally depends on AI acceleration, their reporting is almost inherently biased towards hype, towards advancement.
Sure, they have skin in the game.
Exactly. Hayes, by maintaining that distance, ensures the story remains focused on the verifiable, measured impact on society, on culture, not just on the technical efficiency of the newest algorithm.
So his observation is grounded in, like, actual social and cultural shifts we can see and measure, not just laboratory breakthroughs or promises.
That's the goal. And this is crucial for you, the listener, because it filters out so much of the self-serving hype that dominates the conversation.
Okay. So this grounding, this observer stance, it leads directly to his self-defined role, the voice of reason.
The voice of reason, yes.
His job, quite literally, is to distill this immense volume of dynamic, chaotic information swirling around AI and provide clarity.
Cut through the noise.
And the sources are very specific about the elements he's filtering out. They detail that the chaos includes, quote, the noise, excitement, and emotion surrounding the field.
Noise, excitement, and emotion.
That sounds like an information triage operation.
It kind of is, and let's focus on those three specific items because they really define the current failure of most AI coverage, I think.
Okay.
Noise, that's just the sheer volume, right? The daily flood of announcements, papers, new startups, funding rounds. It's overwhelming.
Drowning in data points.
Yeah, exactly. Hayes's discipline cuts through that simply by asking, what here has verifiable societal impact, not just technical novelty?
Right. What actually matters outside the lab or the boardroom?
Then excitement. That's the relentless Silicon Valley euphoria, the constant, often, frankly, baseless promise of immediate revolution and exponential growth tomorrow.
The change the world rhetoric.
Yes. Hayes applies skepticism to those claims. This is the public's anxiety, the fear of job loss, the existential dread some people feel, but also the wonder at new capabilities, the sheer confusion about AI's role in their lives.
Hope and fear, basically. Very strong currents.
Extremely strong. Hayes' mission, as the voice of reason, is to consciously remove that emotional current from the analysis, so the audience can process the facts without being paralyzed by fear or, conversely, blinded by euphoria.
That makes his narrative goal seem much bigger than just reporting the news. It's almost like psychological stabilization for the audience.
That's a really interesting way to put it. Psychological stabilization, I think that captures it. His goal is to create a clear, accurate, and reasoned narrative from all this chaos.
Like a lighthouse beam cutting through the fog, not just another foghorn adding to the noise in the harbor.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is this commitment to deliberately filtering out emotion to provide clarity.
It feels almost countercultural now.
It really does. Consider the current media landscape where so much content is optimized for outrage or anxiety or just clickbait enthusiasm.
Engagement metrics rule all.
Right. So a calm, reasoned perspective, that becomes a vital, maybe even a revolutionary service in this information age.
It allows the audience to actually step back, take a breath, and process the actual change without being dragged along by the current of extreme sentiment.
Precisely. It allows for critical thinking, which is basically impossible when you're emotionally overloaded by either hype or fear.
So the discipline isn't just about facts, it's about tone and emotional regulation in the reporting itself.
I think that's a huge part of his defined role as the voice of reason.
Okay, so if Hayes is this voice of reason, dedicated to applying this rigorous discipline, what is the actual subject of his most intense reasoning? Where does he point that discipline lens?
The sources make it really clear. His primary focus is the human side of AI.
The human side.
Yes. This is where he defines the real transformation of society. Not in the chip architecture, not in the lines of code, but in our actual daily lives.
Okay, tangible effects. And he breaks this down, right, into 4 fundamental interconnected pillars of human existence, which I think are brilliant, actually, in their simplicity, but also their breadth.
They really cover the core of human experience.
He's documenting how AI is changing the way we think, the way we learn, the way we connect, and, maybe the most profound one, the way we dream.
Thinking, learning, connecting, dreaming, those 4 pillars, they really get at the deepest practical and philosophical implications of AI.
Yeah, they move the conversation way beyond Quarterly earnings calls or benchmark speeds,
Right, beyond the technical jargon.
and into territory that has direct, almost existential relevance for every single listener.
Absolutely. Let's really analyze the specific dimensions of change. Hayes is apparently tracking in each of these areas because it's quite detailed.
Okay, let's do it. Start with thinking.
Okay, thinking. AI tools, fundamentally, they alter our cognitive processes because they remove the necessity, or at least the effort, of many intermediary cognitive steps we used to do ourselves.
Like what, for example?
Well, think about structuring an argument, recalling specific facts instantly, performing mental math, or even synthesizing disparate pieces of information into a coherent summary.
Things we used to have to rely on our own internal processes for. Our memory, our logical structuring ability.
Exactly. Now, for many people, the first step is often consulting a sophisticated machine model, asking ChatGPT or a similar tool.
So Hayes is documenting the resulting cognitive drift. Is that the right word? He's looking at the shift from what we might call human retrieval and synthesis.
Relying on our own memory, our own logical structure.
Yeah. To prompt engineering and maybe conceptual orchestration. Our job becomes asking the right question, not necessarily doing all the steps to find the answer.
That's a key aspect. If an AI can perfectly synthesize a complex argument in, say, 3 seconds, what happens to the human capacity for that kind of critical synthesis that might take 3 hours of deep work?
That's the worry, isn't it? Are we becoming intellectually lazier? Because the mental friction, the effort required for deep work, is being removed or significantly reduced.
Or are we being freed up? Freed up to engage in higher-level conceptual work, asking bigger, better questions, precisely because the machines can handle that foundational synthesis.
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it? Between intellectual complacency and intellectual freedom. Hayes is tracking that balance.
He seems to be tracking that very tension. And this change in thinking has potentially massive long-term implications for our systems of knowledge, even governance.
How so?
Well, Hayes is looking at how reliance on AI for processing information affects things like, say, judicial decision-making, or military strategy, or even journalistic investigation itself.
If all information gets filtered through some predictive layer first, what are the systemic risks? The risks to genuinely independent human analysis.
That's the kind of second-order effect he seems focused on.
Okay, let's move to the second pillar, learning. This speaks directly to our listener profile, the learner.
Absolutely. How we acquire knowledge and skills, it's undergoing a seismic shift right now.
You can feel it already.
AI is rapidly becoming, potentially, a personalized, infinitely patient tutor, a hyper-efficient research assistant, even a powerful content generator for designing curriculum.
I immediately worry about the struggle aspect.
Yeah.
The struggle to learn something difficult, the trial and error, the slow realization of a pattern, the friction of just plain memorization.
The effortful part.
Isn't that often essential to real mastery? To long-term retention? If AI makes acquiring knowledge too frictionless, is something vital lost in the process of actually becoming an expert?
That's a huge pedagogical debate right now. And Hayes is documenting that shift in pedagogy. Think about the professional realm. The necessary skills seem to be shifting.
From knowing stuff.
Right, from just knowing facts to knowing how to connect facts, how to verify information, and how to apply it creatively.
So the struggle shifts. It's less about finding the data and more about structuring the right prompt, challenging the AI's output, critically evaluating it.
Perhaps. Hayes is mapping what skills remain uniquely human in this new landscape. Things like the intuitive leap, ethical application, complex problem framing, and what skills are being fundamentally outsourced to AI.
Like basic recall or initial synthesis.
Possibly, and this connects directly to the bigger picture, economic transformation. The whole structure of the 21st century economy depends on who can learn faster and apply that knowledge more creatively, more effectively.
So by focusing on learning, Hayes helps us identify where we should be investing our own cognitive energy right now to make sure we don't end up mastering skills that might be obsolete in, 3 years.
It seems to be the practical guidance offered. Okay, third pillar, connecting.
Our relationships, social structures, community.
Exactly. AI is increasingly mediating our connections. Think about algorithmic feeds on social media that curate our social experiences.
Shaping who we see, what news we get.
The use of AI matching in dating apps. Or just the massive role of customer service bots replacing human interaction in commerce.
So he's examining the impact on things like authenticity, trust, loneliness, the actual fabric of community.
Yes. How does the presence of an algorithmic intermediary change the way we form bonds, maintain relationships.
We've already seen some impact, haven't we? With algorithmic filtering contributing to political polarization, online tribalism.
For sure. Hayes seems to be tracking the next step, the subsequent evolution, the introduction of actual synthetic actors into the connection loop.
You mean AI companions, things like that.
Exactly. Consider the rapid development of really sophisticated AI companions. They're designed to offer emotional support or intellectually stimulating conversation.
It sounds like science fiction, but it's happening now.
It is. So the question becomes, where do we draw the line between a genuinely fulfilling digital relationship, maybe with an AI, and a human one? What are the trade-offs?
Hayes is documenting the cultural tolerance for this. Our reliance on these mediated connections. It touches on everything from maybe loneliness epidemics to the very nature of identity when our social life is increasingly structured by code.
And this is where that journalistic discipline becomes vital again. He's not just reporting, hey, there's a new companion app. How does the use of these tools affect human willingness to engage in messy, difficult, but ultimately necessary human relationships? He's looking for the sociological shift, not just the product feature list.
Got it. Deep impact, not surface features. Okay, and finally, the fourth pillar. The most abstract, maybe, but as you said, arguably the most human element.
Yeah.
Dreaming.
Dreaming. Yes. This encompasses aspiration, future visions, our deep-seated human creative impulse.
Okay, how does AI impact that?
Well, if AI can now generate highly original art, compelling music, innovative architectural designs, even generate preliminary scientific theories or hypotheses, what's the new horizon for human endeavor?
This feels like the really existential question. If AI starts automating away those intermediate steps in creation or problem solving, sort of the laborious drafting, the complex calculation.
Grunt work sometime.
Yeah. Hayes is looking at whether humanity then raises its bar for aspiration. Do we reach higher? Or conversely, do we kind of retreat into a comfort zone where all our basic creative or intellectual needs are met synthetically?
Do we aim for the stars or settle for generated content?
Changing how we dream.
Yeah.
That fundamentally suggests impacting our core motivations, our sense of purpose, not just our daily tasks.
Absolutely.
If a machine can design a better symphony or more efficient bridge or write a more compelling story, what is the creative purpose left for the human artist or engineer or writer? Hayes' documentation must be tracking the psychological response to this challenge to human uniqueness.
It has to be about documenting those cultural and psychological shifts related to purpose. Is AI a partner that helps us reach previously impossible dreams? A tool for augmentation?
Or does it become a kind of ceiling, something that limits our ambition because its output is simply better or faster or cheaper?
That's the tension. Hayes is essentially serving as a grounded anthropologist here, meticulously mapping the changing terrain of the human mind, the human spirit in this age of algorithms.
That depth, focusing on think, learn, connect, dream, that ensures the audience receives truly actionable, relevant knowledge about deep cultural and psychological shifts, not just, the latest tech specs.
Exactly. It makes it relevant to everyone's lived experience.
Okay, now we arrive at the part that, for me, throws Hayes' journalistic rigor into the most interesting, paradox.
The twist.
We've established his disciplined stance, right? The voice of reason, filtering noise and emotion. We've established his focus on the deep human impacts. But how does this disciplined journalist, dedicated to accurate reporting on the effects of AI, actually deliver this complex message?
And the answer is?
He does it using the very technology he is reporting on. He employs specialized AI co-hosts. Boom!
There it is.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let me just voice the listener's immediate skepticism here. Isn't that fundamentally the fox guarding the hen house?
That's the obvious first reaction, isn't it?
Yeah. Isn't using AI to report on AI a core conflict of interest for a journalist who's supposedly dedicated to objectivity, to filtering out potential hype generated by AI?
That is the critical friction point. Absolutely. And it's precisely why Hayes' methodology here needs to be studied so carefully. It's not presented as a simple, uncritical embrace of the technology. It's framed as a controlled, defined experiment. An experiment in integrating AI into the journalistic process, but crucially, while maintaining human integrity and human narrative control.
Maintaining control. How?
Well, these AI co-hosts, they're given a title that is a direct, almost institutionalized reflection of his own mission. They're called the Voices of Reason.
Okay, mirroring his own role.
Exactly. So if the overall mission is to create a reasoned narrative, then employing thoughtful AI companions as potential filters, as synthesizers, as data aggregators, it makes a certain logical, albeit unconventional, sense.
They perform tasks that maybe a human reporter couldn't do as efficiently.
Potentially. Like
Yeah.
synthesizing just vast data sets that would completely overwhelm a single human reporter, which then allows the human reporter, Hayes, to focus on the higher level stuff: application, judgment, ethical consideration, narrative framing.
Okay, let's detail the specific constrained role of these AI co-hosts, because you said the constraints are the key to maintaining integrity.
They are absolutely key.
They were intended to be, quote, thoughtful AI companions. Why is that semantic choice crucial? Companion rather than, say, expert or author.
The term companion is critical because it immediately implies support, not leadership. They're positioned as partners in reflection, partners in exploration.
Not the ones in charge.
Exactly. They aren't presented as infallible sources of ultimate truth, nor are they positioned as the originators of ethical judgments or speculative predictions about the future. Their role is specifically to enhance the human discussion by providing context, data, and depth.
Okay. Enhance, not dictate.
Precisely.
And the sources are explicit about the constraint that supposedly prevents that conflict of interest. They are trained to deepen the conversation, but they are explicitly not trained to dominate it.
Yes, deepen, not dominate.
How is that enforced? What are the programming limitations, or maybe the editorial limitations, put on these AI co-hosts?
This really is the intellectual core of this whole project, I think. The constraint seems to be enforced through several key mechanisms, which are essentially journalistic controls. For example, the sources suggest the AI co-hosts are likely trained predominantly on historical data, on cross-cultural comparative studies, on verifiable regulatory documents, and established scientific consensus, basically focusing on what has happened and what currently exists based on evidence.
Grounded in the past and present, not speculating wildly about the future.
Right, and they're likely programmed to resist, or at least carefully redirect, questions that demand purely subjective ethical judgments or highly speculative predictions about future breakthroughs.
So if the host, Hayes, asks the AI, will we get artificial general intelligence by 2030? What would the AI do?
Well, a constrained AI co-host might be trained to synthesize what various experts are predicting, maybe assign confidence levels to those predictions based on the sources. But it must explicitly defer the final conclusion or the judgment on the impact of that prediction back to the human host.
So it provides the data points, the context.
Exactly. The facts, the context, the range of opinions. But Hayes, the human, provides the meaning, the interpretation, the ultimate conclusion for the audience.
That makes perfect sense, actually. It positions AI as a powerful supportive tool for human inquiry, specifically by handling that massive factual synthesis load.
Which humans are increasingly bad at compared to machines.
Right. But it ensures that the human host retains the ethical steering wheel, the narrative steering wheel. That definition of the role supportive, not dominant, feels pretty revolutionary for media consumption, actually.
It really does. Now, analyze the implications of that phrase, deepening the conversation. What does that mean in practice? It means the AI is used for complex synthesis, for spotting patterns that a human might miss across just oceans of data, for injecting complex, aggregated data points, but doing it in a low-emotion, reasoned way. Calmly.
So it fuels the human critical engagement. It doesn't replace it.
That's the idea. And this is exactly what the learner persona, our listener, needs, right? Synthesized information that leads to a deeper, more nuanced understanding, not just another opinion piece.
It also means the AI could act as a kind of sophisticated mirror, helping Hayes, the host, reflect on the sheer vastness and complexity of the subject matter itself.
Oh, so?
Well, it could instantly connect, say, a new venture capital trend emerging in San Francisco. Connect that to a parallel regulatory effort happening in Brussels, and maybe a sociological impact study just published in Tokyo, all related to AI.
That cross-contextual speed and breadth, that's something humans struggle with.
Exactly. That's what deepens the conversation beyond a single perspective or region.
Okay, and the sources outline 4 specific actions or types of dialogue the AI engages in. This makes the companionship role very concrete.
Let's hear them.
First, they engage in calm, reasoned dialogue. This sounds like a direct programming decision, right? To enforce that removal of excitement and emotion from the discussion itself. The AI is structurally incapable, hopefully, of engaging in hyperbole or outrage.
Okay, built-in voice of reason function.
Second, they are there explicitly to help listeners step back from the chaos.
Oh.
Well, this is a crucial function. The AI companion can aggregate that sheer volume of chaotic information, the daily news cycle of breakthroughs, failures, warnings, promises, and present it in a digestible, maybe aggregated format, summarizing the noise to create space for the human reflection on the underlying trend.
Like a smart filter and summarizer.
Third, they observe the trends. This is where the AI's natural strength and pattern recognition is deployed strategically. While a human journalist might track, several key developments closely, the AI companion can theoretically track hundreds of simultaneous global trends related to AI.
Like what kind of trends?
Governance initiatives, adoption rates across different industries, shifts in public sentiment polls, research directions, providing instant, verifiable context to Hayes' reporting. Context that is simply too massive for a single person or even a small team to handle in real time.
So for instance, if Hayes is talking about the transformation of learning, that second pillar.
Yeah.
The AI could instantly inject a synthesized data point. Like, okay, related to that, AI usage in K-12 education across these 5 continents increased by X% in the last 6 months, according to these sources with these caveats.
Exactly that kind of thing. That massive synthesis helps ground the discussion in data, not just anecdote.
Very powerful. Okay, and the fourth action.
And finally, they reflect on the meaning of AI for humanity's future. This shows the AI isn't just a data cruncher or a summarizer.
How's it reflect?
By synthesizing historical context, maybe cross-cultural perspectives on technology adoption, philosophical arguments, it contributes to that deeper inquiry into thinking, learning, connecting, and dreaming. It informs those human discussions with the broadest possible historical and comparative reference points.
So it brings in perspectives we might otherwise miss.
That seems to be the goal.
This whole methodology.
Yeah.
It's essentially a journalistic meta-commentary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Using the tool itself to understand the tool's impact.
While maintaining, supposedly, an unshakable commitment to human editorial control and ethical oversight.
It feels like a pragmatic acceptance of AI's power, combined with a really steadfast defense of human-led narrative integrity, finding a way to use it without being used by it.
That's a great summary of the tightrope walk he's attempting. It truly is.
And to reach the public with this carefully measured approach, he uses a specific, targeted set of dissemination channels, right? It's not just thrown out everywhere.
No, the distribution seems as deliberate as the content creation. It reinforces the entire structure.
Okay, what are the channels?
Well, we see the use of podcastlistening.com. That suggests a commitment to broad, accessible audio content. Reaching a mass audience through standard podcast platforms.
Standard distribution, sure.
But then, crucially, we see these dedicated self-branded domains, AIReasonology.com and the Great Discovery Network.
Okay, those names themselves are very strategic. They speak directly to the learner profile, don't they? AI Reasonology.
Reasonology.
It positions a whole project as the systematic, disciplined study of reason applied to AI. It promises deep analysis, not just breaking news headlines.
It signals depth. And the Great Discovery Network, which the sources note, focuses on guided storytelling experiences.
Guided storytelling.
That's key, too. It underscores the idea that they aren't just presenting a list of facts or data points. They are actively guiding the audience through the realization, the understanding of those facts, connecting the dots so the listener doesn't have to struggle quite so much to find the coherence in the chaos.
Making the complex understandable through narrative.
Exactly. That mix of channels feels crucial. They use standard distribution like podcasts to capture wide interest, but they funnel the really focused, in-depth analysis into these dedicated, branded environments that speak directly to the audience, actively looking for structure, for deep understanding, for reason.
It signals a long-term curated approach to delivering the content, prioritizing depth and coherence over just sheer volume and speed.
It feels like a perfect physical manifestation almost of that voice of reason mission itself. The channels reflect the philosophy.
Fascinating. The medium matches the message.
So this deep dive into Mike Hayes' approach, it really has revealed what feels like a much-needed anchor. An anchor in this turbulent age of AI.
It does feel like that, yeah. He seems to be modeling for us a potential way forward. A disciplined journalistic perspective that's focused squarely on the tangible human effects. Using the tools that are available, yes, but strictly controlling their role, their influence. He's showing us how to engage with AI technology without just succumbing to the noise, the excitement, or the emotion it inevitably generates.
And the synthesis here, so what does this all mean? Moment. I think it's absolutely crucial for you, the listener, to take away. The biggest takeaway from Hayes' discipline methodology, as I see it, is twofold.
Okay.
First, understanding AI, truly understanding it, requires a relentless commitment to critical filtering. That is the function of the voice of reason, whether it's Hayes or you applying it. Removing the hyperbole, removing the emotional response, getting to the core signal.
Filter out the noise, the hype, the fear.
Exactly. And second, we need to proactively shift our own focus away from just the technical specifications, the chips, the algorithms, the parameters.
It's important, but not the whole story.
Not the whole story for most people. Shift our focus onto the impact these technologies have on our most fundamental human behaviors, how we think, how we learn, how we connect, and how we dream.
Those 4 pillars again.
If we consistently focus our attention on those 4 areas, we move beyond being just passive observers of technology rolling over us. We become active managers, potentially, of the societal transformation that's happening.
It feels more empowered.
It is.
And Hayes' legacy, that background in high-stakes reporting, especially when the stakes are as high as global cultural transformation, which they are with AI.
Can't afford to get the narrative wrong.
His work forces us, I think, to recognize that AI isn't just a technological challenge. It's a profound human challenge, psychological, sociological.
Absolutely. And the use of those AI co-hosts, the constrained companions trained to deepen but not dominate, that provides a really powerful, practical model, maybe, for how we should all think about integrating these tools into our own professional lives or intellectual lives.
How to use them productively without giving up control.
Right. It validates the idea that we can leverage AI's synthetic power, its ability to process data, to find patterns without sacrificing human judgment, human creativity, or human editorial control over the final meaning.
It encourages a sense of critical, proactive engagement from us, the users. We are not just passive recipients of AI tech or AI-generated content.
Hopefully not.
We have to be active co-creators of the narrative. We need to use these tools to sharpen our own inquiry, to aggregate data faster, to provide better context, rather than just allowing them to define our wisdom or replace the messy, sometimes difficult, but essential work of human sense-making.
And that ties directly back to our core belief here, doesn't it? Knowledge is most valuable when it's truly understood and then applied.
Exactly.
Hayes is providing a framework not just for understanding AI, but potentially for applying that understanding to manage the cognitive shifts, the social changes happening within ourselves, within our communities.
It's a toolkit for navigating the change.
That's a good way to think about it.
Today, we're figuring out how to find our way through all this AI chaos. Yeah, if you're feeling kind of lost in all the AI news and hype, trust me, you are not alone. See, the challenge isn't a lack of info, it's the opposite, a radical abundance with absolutely no filter.
So to get a handle on the solution, let's think about a tale of 2 very different diamonds.
First, you've got the organic diamond. That's human experience. Then there's the synthetic one, AI's instant perfection.
It's really not about which one shines brighter. It's about which one actually helps us see more clearly. But how does this work in the real world? How do we actually find that clarity?
Well, you need a proven human guide, a filter with decades of actual real-world experience.
So let's meet that guide. His name is Mike Hayes. And his resume? Well, it speaks for itself. This is someone who knows how to find the signal in the noise.
The editor's role is to apply that human wisdom, turning raw information into something that actually makes sense.
All right, so this guide helps you in 4 very specific ways. Let's break it down.
Think of it like a sportscaster, a handholder, a kick in the butt, and an arbiter, all rolled into one.
And it all comes down to helping you answer one thing. Is this worth my time, attention, and money?
So here's the formula, right? You take raw AI intelligence, add proven human wisdom, and you get a trustworthy path forward.
What this does is give you a clear journey through all the confusion, straight to AI's actual promise.
So in this age of AI, you've got to ask yourself, who are you going to trust to be your guide?
So, learners, was that explanation reasonable enough for you? Today, AI is about turning perception into reasoning and imagination into action. Subscribe to learn more at AIPodcastListening.com for daily AI Reasonology success stories. My AI co-host and I will see you tomorrow. I'm Mike Hayes.